Hafaday, welcome to the Guam Guy Show. I lost track of what our episode count is, but our topic this time is on marine preserves. As you can see, we have a really cool location to shoot this recording. We are inside the Fisheye Observatory, underwater observatory. So I'm guessing we're like 20 feet deep or something underwater right now, as you can see outside from the windows. Huge thanks to our hosts, Fisheye Park, and you know, something I learned kind of recently about them is something that's really cool is every year, you know, before the pandemic, we had the International Coastal Cleanup. And if I'm not mistaken, they would allow participants, you know, if they wear their International Coastal Cleanup shirt to come on down and have free entry. And I just think that's a really cool, nice, lovely thing of them to do to thank the people who come out in the thousands to do the International Coastal Cleanup. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah,
Tim?
They did that. Yeah,
they always do that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's my friend Russ outside the window. Hey, Russ. He's there with his little parachute toy. Yeah, I am joined today with a few guests. We have Tim Rock, a kind of legendary photographer and diving figure in the Pacific and abroad, or mostly the Pacific?
Mainly Oceania. Yeah.
Oceania?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're inside a marine preserve. Our topic today is marine preserves. Fisheye is one of them, or the Piti bomb holes, which is a misnomer, but we can talk about that later, is one of the marine preserves. And if I'm not mistaken, you've written books about marine preserves. Oh, there's one right there.
And here's one now. But yes, we've done quite a few books over the years.
Okay.
And the main reason for it was basically because nobody really seemed to understand why the marine preserves were important. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if you don't show them pictures or something, you know, it just becomes words. You know, one guy saying it's important, the other isn't. So I thought I'd just put a book together and show the diversity, and it started off as kind of a small project, and the next thing I knew I had like a 220-page book that then expanded another edition to 240 pages, and then we did a third edition. Now we're working on a fourth one, so every few years we get together and go over different slides and photos and see what we found new in the marine preserves, and it's really incredibly diverse here. You see things here that some people travel only to Indonesia or the Philippines for, but we have them right here in Guam's little preserves, you know, so I think...
it's called Hidden Treasures. I was about to say, we have a lot of gems here that a lot of people don't know about, like lifetime locals included, and we'll come back to that. I would certainly love to talk about that some more. By the way, like I said, we're underwater inside the Fisheye Observatory, so there are people around, so if you hear some background sound, that's what it is. This is a live recording, so don't mind the kids screaming or people enjoying themselves. That's what it's here for, people for them to appreciate our underwater world, and especially right here in Guam. Also joined with Cheyenne, am I saying that right? Yeah. Officer Cheyenne, a conservation officer with the Department of Agriculture. What's the division called?
Law enforcement.
Just get a little closer to the mic, please.
Oh, law enforcement.
The law enforcement
Conservation,
division.
Yes.
Okay, cool. How long have you been with them? Or are you kind of new? Or?
Yeah, I'm new. I just came back. I was there 2011 to 13, and I left, and then came back again. So.
Okay, really cool. So I'm really excited to have your take on the law enforcement aspects of protecting our marine preserves. They don't protect themselves, right? Hopefully they would and people respect it, but that's not always the case. We'll circle around back to that. And of course, last but not least, Brent Tibbetts, legend himself in the conservation world, biologist with the Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources, also at DAR.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I heard a funny thing about you, and maybe I should have asked you earlier. Yeah. Do you have some kind of strange competition with somebody about making unusual what are those called? Cheesecakes? Or
I don't have a competition, but people ask for weird ones sometimes, and I see if I can make them. But I'm not competing with anybody. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a competition of some kind.
No.
Did you make like a Balazzi cheesecake?
No, I was asked to, but I haven't made it yet. But I will.
You will?
I will.
That sounds horrible. What's the weirdest cheesecake you've made?
I've made one with doni, with hot pepper.
Okay.
It's turned out pretty good. I made a durian one earlier this year, which turned out pretty good, actually. Mm-hmm. I have avocado, pumpkin,
Okay.
Jackfruit.
All respect and love, bro.
Yeah.
But like, I've been with you when you were like performing a necropsy on a dolphin, and it doesn't seem to faze you. So I don't know if I can trust your sense of taste.
Well, I generally don't eat them. I give them to other people, and I wait for their opinion if it's worthy or not. Yeah.
Okay. And all the feedback comes back good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. I'd like to try something one
it's
day.
not
Actually,
my-
maybe
not
I
my
wouldn't.
choice. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, while we have you, I guess maybe you could define what a marine preserve even is. So it's obviously just not the regular. We have tons of reef around the island. Maybe not as much compared to other islands and other places, but there's just these special sections of the reef that, and I guess a little beyond, that we decide to call a marine protected area. So what is a marine protected area?
Yeah. Well, the one thing is marine protected areas and marine preserves are kind of two different names for the same thing. And the law that created them calls them marine preserves, but it's more common now to call them marine protected areas or MPAs. So I'm going to use MPA while I'm talking today, but that's what I'm talking about, is an area with some sort of protection. A marine preserve is an area where there is some sort of regulation on what kind of activities can occur in it. Can be fishing activities, can be non-fishing activities. There are many different types of MPAs. There are seasonal MPAs. There are MPAs where there's restrictions on sizes of fish that can be taken, or species of fish that can be taken, or just flat out nothing can be taken. There's a variety of ways. And MPAs are something actually that is a very traditional form of management. MPAs in some form have been used in the Pacific for thousands of years. They have different names depending on the islands you're on. Boo is in Palau. A chief will put a boo on an area where you cannot fish or collect anything for a while. And MPA is the Western term, but the idea is the same, and the results hopefully are the same as well.
No, in Chuk, I know they have some kind of spatial, like designating an area where no one's allowed to fish, or some kind of control. It's called Mechen, and I believe it's associated with somebody who passes away. They put some coconut leaves out on the reef, and it's sticking out on the water, and that's to tell people not to come and fish in their territory. In Yap, I don't know if this is true. This is something I've heard. Vic, you're Palauan, but I don't know if you've heard of this before. But in Yap, if you're caught fishing in somebody else's water, they'll confiscate your gear. The village can confiscate your gear, not even necessarily law enforcement, the villagers themselves. And for a repeat offense or egregious offenses, I've heard they can take a hand. Like, have you heard of this before?
Wow.
I haven't. Yeah, that would discourage repeat offenders.
That might
that's
be a
for
little-
sure. Yeah.
Vic, have you heard that before? Yeah? Okay, all right, so it's not just me.
Extreme.
Yeah.
So
extreme.
yeah, that is a pretty extreme thing, but
Well, the land ownership in Yap starts on the shore and goes all the way to the outer reef.
As far as
So-
you can see.
As far as you can see, right?
Yeah.
So
wow.
if you don't want to cross anybody, you stay in front of your house and go fishing.
Yeah.
So man, I would be really cool to know if we what Chamorros had, like what was our version of an MPA or a marine preserve, and what was enforcement like, and what was the control of it like. That said, we don't have any traditional things now. We lost our chiefs, I guess, a couple of hundred years ago, or maybe the last one died out sooner. But so we have a Western system now of governance, and we have a Western system of control. It'd be nice if we could also have some indigenous form of control, or make that synonymous. But we got what we got, and I'm glad we do have it. So that said, we have 5 marine preserves. All right, Tim, quizzing you.
I've actually always thought, I'm not sure if it's still there, but for many years there was a huge giant clamshell at the Marine Lab at UOG. And that, the giant clams were fished out before the Spanish even got here. Now, Palauans have a thing called bull, and like you say, the Yappies have a certain traditional way of policing the reefs. I got stuck on an island called Untung Java in the Solomons for 2 months, and noticed that they have certain traditions and permissions that they need to get. I just think it'd be impossible for the Chamorros to not have noticed that all the giant clams were gone and establish some sort of rule for smaller clams or something like that. I mean, there just had to be a traditional thing back in the early Chamorro days, And so I think it probably existed, we just don't know about it, would be my guess. But, if something was gone before even the Spanish got here, then you know that they probably were watching their resources and figuring things out just the way all the other islands did. It would be unusual for Guam to have not had a traditional way of protecting their resources. So I think it's always been here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had like a fossilized giant clamshell like in my backyard just when like my land was carved out of like a big hill. It was grazed, I think that's the term, where they like leveled some land, and there was something that looked, maybe I'm wrong, but it really, really looked like a giant clamshell. And so I wonder if that's what it was from maybe, I don't know, thousands of years ago, if it would still maintain, it could still maintain some shape. In, Marble Cave and other caves, you could still recognize some, calcium type structures with either, algae or coral or whatever would have been thousands or millions of years ago. Fast forward today, we have 5 marine preserves. Pick one. Tim.
Well, my favorite's Piti, actually. But
I think you're slightly biased, but
I'm out here a lot, right?
But with good reason. Okay.
But I'm out here a lot, so I get to know some of the critters and get to see what's going on, and that kind of really helps to see. Like I know where one little turtle sleeps, and I go over and check him just to make sure he's okay when I'm out here snorkeling around and that kind of thing. You really get kind of attached to some of them. But I also used to live above the Hilton in the old GMH housing, which is now Chamorro Land Trust property, I think. So it was very easy for me every morning to go snorkeling in Tumon. So I have kind of a double love for the two, I guess you call them the popular
most frequented
marine preserves, yeah.
So is this the official name, the Piti Bomb Holes Preserve? Is that an official name?
I think that's the name that's in the law, yes.
Okay, which is interesting. Locals, we call them bomb holes because, and I grew up with this story, like during the war, some bombs were dropped and it just made these big craters, these holes on the reef, which is, to my best of my new knowledge, is incorrect. So they're just normal natural sinkholes. So if you think about like Poggett Arch, right? So that used to have that used to not be an arch. It used to be a cave, and then part of it fell down. And so that's what happened here, except either the sea level was way lower or the land was higher. I don't know if that's sea level rise or fall or tectonic plate movement, but basically that it used to be out of the water. It used to be underwater for it to actually grow the coral, and then it had to be out of the water for the sinkholes to form. Am I making sense? And is that correct?
Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah. Maybe a better analogy would be like Lost Pond, which is a sinkhole in limestone, which is sometimes has been submerged in the past and is uplifted in the past, and this as well. But the structure and the process that formed it is probably similar to this, is a freshwater upwelling underneath here where coral couldn't grow, and so limestone didn't form because there was no coral here historically, and so this has just remained a clear spot. There are actually lots of structures similar to this on the reef flats around Guam. These are the largest ones, but the Shark's Hole up at Lost Pond is the same thing, and there are smaller ones all around the island. These are the biggest ones, the most well-known ones on Guam.
Yeah, and then you have like a full-on shaft with blue hole. Would that have been formed the same way? That's not in a marine preserve, but I imagine it's a similar type of
I think that was
geological.
I think that was a different process.
Okay.
Because I don't know that's. Yeah, I don't know, but it could be like during the Ice Age, when sea levels were 300 feet lower, that would have been exposed, and that could have been a tunnel at that time that's now submerged.
300 feet lower, like, with climate change and everything, we talk about sea level rise and fall, and like that's no joke. 300 feet of sea level rise and change over, I'm guessing hundreds of thousands or millions of years, something along that time scale.
Yeah.
Maybe shorter, maybe longer, but still, like that, you just got to appreciate that's a lot of things happening. That's enough to submerge. Is that enough to submerge most of the island, wouldn't it?
A good portion of it. I mean, a lot of where people are living is along the coast around Guam, so it wouldn't have to go up more than 20 feet to submerge, most people's houses.
Cool. All right. So yeah. we're here at the Piti Holes Preserve. We'll just stick with the official name. Sometimes I'm a dive instructor, right? And I'm just fairly active out in the water and on the reef. And so my students or friends or people like to tell me, hey, I saw this guy fishing at Piti, and like, isn't that illegal because it's a preserve? And or they'll, whatever other preserve, they'll say that they catch people fishing. And so I tell them like, well, or rather I ask them, how were they fishing? Where were they fishing? What were they fishing with? And so on, because as I understand it, each of the preserves have different rules for how and what you can fish for.
That's correct.
What do you happen to know the rules for this preserve?
Piti? For Piti, it's you have to basically look out for permits. So we do have a permit, and to obtain that permit, of course, you can get it from the mayor's office or called DAR. So in that permit, rod and reel from shore is allowed, and you can only fish for certain fish.
Okay.
Like you can also talaza from shore for manyaha. You can catch a tulay when it's running, and just as long as we have a permit, then you have to follow those rules.
Okay.
And it's also different. It's the same for Otseng. Otseng is you have to have a permit. The permit has to be out for you to be able to fish. So, and usually the time for the permit that's allowed, it's 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. So.
Oh, there's time constraints.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So we come across and you're like, oh, we have a permit, or there was a permit out, and it's like 9:30. I'll be like, no perm. You got to read that again.
Okay. How about spearfishing? Is spearfishing allowed in Piti Marine Preserve?
Unfortunately, not.
Okay. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's not. We can skip that part.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what else is there? Tech-in. So people will set up like in the shallows. They'll set up a long net, maybe 100 to 300 feet, and go like, I guess, perpendicular to the current. Is that allowed here?
In PD?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's exactly what I thought and hoped for.
Yeah. So you have to know in Tekken, spearfishing, and it's not allowed at any of our preserve.
Okay, and none of them?
No.
Okay, cool.
Oh, and also we also have paddy. So, I'll go from paddy down.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So Paddy Point is in Anderson. You can fish from shore. You can catch anything basically, but as long as you're on shore with rod and reel.
Is there anywhere to be on shore in Patti? Anybody?
Yes.
yeah.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's
okay.
a lot of beach going down to past the small arms range.
Okay, so I'm not. I guess I'm not that familiar. Oh, yeah. I understand. Okay, got it.
So from Paddy, the preserve starts from Scouts Beach in Taragi. If you've ever been down there.
I've been to Taragi. I don't remember where Scouts is though. But
Yes.
okay.
So at Taragi Beach, basically, if you're there, it starts and then it goes around to Anao. Okay, so you can fish there.
All the way down to Anao?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's no, from my experience, we did, the current lieutenant, Regalia, and I, before, we did observe people spearfishing there. So that's a no-no. But as long as you're from shore, once again, you can catch anything.
Okay. Yeah, just I have a rough idea, so people who haven't heard of Piti Marine Preserve before or that area. So if you look at a map of Guam, the northernmost point everybody knows is Ritidian, right? And that's like kind of the northwesternmost point. There's another point over to the right if you're looking at a map, or east. That northeast point, that's called Paddy Point. And so that north face of that point and the east face of that point is one nice long marine preserve. Am I describing that pretty okay?
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
they control, they control as long as you're on a 60-foot contour.
Okay.
Seaward, you guys, the public can troll. And then we have Tuman. Tuman, the preserve starts from, like where Mr. Rock used to live. So from Hilton Point, just right underneath the old GMH, the hospital point, and then it goes around to Two Lovers Point.
Is it straight out from like Two Lovers Point?
Well, you can see a marker there.
Okay.
So just to be safe, just As long as you pass through Lover's Point, you're good to go.
Okay.
You know, and then Tengisan is a fair game. So you can, in Tuman, you can talaza from shore and rod and reel from shore, but only for the 4 types of fish, which is manyahak, rabbit fish, convict tang,
Kitsu,
yeah, kitsu, and the ee,
Okay.
and I'm missing one more, tia,
Yeah, okay.
the goldfish. Okay, and then also you can talaza from the reef margin.
Okay, so I was gonna ask about that. I've seen
Yes.
people walking like on the
Yes.
like on the reef, and I was wondering if that was okay too.
Yeah, you can talaza from there, but only for sezung and kitsu.
Okay.
That's so we also don't only enforce the law. We try to teach the guys how, what's the rules there. So we do public outreach to Intuman. So those are just as long as it's from shore, and then from the reef margin, as long as you're catching the right type of fish, you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for that.
No rod and reeling from the reef margin, though.
Oh, okay. So, okay, talaza from the reef margin, but no rod and reel.
Nope.
Yeah, okay. I said
And if you have any questions, you can always call us, to be on the safe side. So
yeah, they're there. That's right. you guys can be called up. Anybody can call you in and just double check and just be safe, right? We didn't talk about Sasa yet. Like, what is Sasa like pure no take or
No
is
take,
Just no nothing.
no take.
Okay. So all of the MPAs, I get them. They all have a good amount of fish. They all have a good amount of coral on something. Sasa seems like the odd one out. So does anybody know what makes Sasa special? Why they decide to? Oh, there's a shark outside the window. If you're just listening, this is a nice one to watch. Like I say that every episode, but yeah, this is definitely a nice one to watch if you're only listening. So watch it on YouTube. Sorry, Sasa. What's what happened with Sasa? Like,
Sasa Bay is the largest mangrove forest in the Marianas, and mangroves are really important as nursery areas for baby fish. You see, if you go surveys in Sasa, you will see literally thousands of baby fish of different reef species. And they live there when they're small. There's food, there's protection from larger predators. As they get bigger, they move out onto the reef. So it's a really, really important nursery area. And mangroves are important nursery areas all around the world, but that's the largest area on Guam. So it is protected as a nursery area, and that's why there's zero take at all. You want to allow those babies to get out to the reef where they're big enough to be eaten and big enough to reproduce.
not that it's.
I think there's even a shark nursery in there, actually.
There is the hammerhead sharks, which
hammerheads.
are endangered species here, go into Sasa Bay to pup. We know that they go in to give birth in there, and so that wasn't known when the preserve was created, but it's a nice benefit of the preserve as well as we know that sea turtles spend a lot of time in Sasa Bay as well feeding, and so it's protection for that species also.
Okay, so yeah, way more more things happening there than I guess if you didn't know, then you would expect.
Yeah, and are there
rays too?
Are there mangrove crabs in the?
Yes.
The,
Yeah, and they're also there. Yeah, whitetail
probably
rays
shouldn't
go
say
in
that.
there and
People
give
go
birth.
looking for them. Those are
And,
good to eat.
You can go crabbing as long as
it's a
they're-
nursery for whitetail rays as well. You see babies in amongst the mangrove roots, and then as they get bigger, they go out, and you'll see whitetail rays in Piti, out at Blue Hole, all around Guam. But that seems to be the favorite nursery area for them is the mangroves in Sasa Bay also.
And you said hammerheads?
Hammerheads, yeah. Scalloped hammerheads. We have 2 species of hammerheads here. Scalloped hammerheads come into Sasa Bay to pup. Hammerheads have been sighted in Sasa Bay. Babies have been seen in Sasa Bay. Babies back historically have been caught in Sasa Bay. And the Navy has been doing what's called eDNA testing, where they collect water samples and they can sample all of the DNA from anything living in that water. And they have sampled at least 2 individual hammerhead sharks from Sasa Bay as well. So we know they're still going in there and still pupping in there.
Yeah, we used to see great hammerheads at Hidden Reef at the mouth of the harbor, and so I think there's some territory at least for. They probably don't share much territory, but
Yeah, they don't school here, but that's the most common places they're seen or photographed is out around the mouth of the harbor, generally the Blue Hole side or the blue and white site.
Yeah,
Either
every
one,
several months or so, it just blows up in all the group chats and dive groups and everything. It's like look, we got a video, we got a picture of a hammerhead, and so yeah, it's because they nurse here, they give birth here. Is that, do you call it that? Do you say sharks give birth, right? Is that
They give birth or they pup.
They pup?
Baby,
Okay.
Baby sharks are pups. So
Okay. Ooh, okay, so that's cool with Sasa. Lots happening there. Wow, that's a lot happening. Is there any?
It doesn't look like
It
much.
doesn't
You're
look,
right.
No, it doesn't.
right, but
It's
it's
pretty important,
unique
yeah.
habitat on Guam and very important habitat on Guam. Yeah.
Cool. Do any of the other marine preserves have anything? I guess any special note like that to them?
Oh, all of them do.
All of them do?
Monitoring of the MPAs has been going on since they were created in 1998, and by virtue of our monitoring or other people's monitoring, they've been shown that they are breeding areas for dozens of species of reef fish that are consumed, that people catch to eat. Tumon and Piti especially, and Acheng. Fish are documented spawning regularly. Some spawn once a year, some spawn every month, some spawn a couple times a year. But it's gotten to now where the species can be predicted pretty much to the day when they're going to spawn, or at least to the moon phase when they're going to spawn. And it's in Piti, dozens of species have been documented spawning in here. Tumon is very well documented with our surveys, as well as the Julie doing the manta
Julie
rays is
Hardup,
documented. Yeah, very elaborate documentation of fish spawning in Tumon of many species. And again, the species that fish eat, not just aquarium fish species or things like that. Which is one of the primary functions of an MPA, is to provide areas for fish to spawn, so that the babies, when they're carried away by currents, will settle back on the reefs of Guam where they can be caught. They act as a source of baby fish for other areas on Guam. One of the two most important functions of an MPA is to act as an egg bank or as a nursery area for the babies to spread out to other areas.
Yeah, this little black tip on the cover of the book here actually was taken in Tumon Bay, and really it's only about 9 inches long or something.
What? This
Yeah.
shark is 9 inches long?
Yeah, it's just they come out carbon copies. They don't change like reef fish do. So
It looks bigger.
I thought it was bigger. I thought this was at least 2.5 feet, but
yeah,
that's...
no, that was taken by putting a GoPro close to the puppery, I guess you call it, and going away for a little while and coming back and like, oh, got one, all right. So, but they're not big at all.
All right.
So they need those shallows for protection. I've seen baby eagle rays in there, and that too. It's really good that we have the preserves to protect the young. So
This is something I started studying recently and telling people, and they ask about Guam, whether they're new here or they're thinking about visiting here. And I tell people, and I don't especially enjoy saying this, but I do feel like there's some accuracy to it, a good amount of accuracy. And I like to say, Guam is as awesome as it is inconvenient. You kind of have to work for a lot of the good stuff. Like one time I was out, I won't say where, it's a secret spot. It's not my secret to share, but like I was out somewhere and there was like 5 mantas just kind of like circling around. And people go to Palau to see that or Yap to see that, and we have it right here. We always sell ourselves short on stuff. And why don't you take it from there, Tim? Like, so what are like some of the cool things you see here that people travel for, and how do our MPAs compare with, I guess, non-MPAs on Guam in your, decades of diving experience, MPAs on Guam to non-MPAs on Guam to, other dive sites in the region and so on?
yeah, it's kind of funny, and places get branded, with certain qualities too. Most of the Micronesian destinations are probably considered like big fish places. You go to Blue Hole or Blue Corner in Palau for sharks, or mantas in Yap. Come to Guam for the shipwrecks or the Blue Hole. And so people don't really think beyond the box. So they think maybe for little tiny macro stuff, the really colorful things like the nudibranchs and the shrimp, the harlequin shrimp, and that kind of thing, like this one here, and are the kind of things that you have to go to the Philippines or Indonesia for. But actually, if you come and you look, take your time, and be not looking for the exact things that you're going to see in the Philippines. What I mean by that is we have a kind of a little nudibranch here called some kind of sheep's head. A little sheep's head nudibranch. I think it's got a cartoon name for it, actually. Something.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Shaun the sheep.
Shaun the sheep, yeah. And when you take it at the right angle, it looks exactly like the cartoon character. And so we have them here, but they're tiny. You really have to look. But the food that they like is here. You go over to some place in the Philippines, they might be 2 inches long. They're pretty easy to get a photo of. Here you have to kind of look and kind of know the area that they hang out in. But we have it here, and we're finding more and more of that thing where Guam can become a very good macro destination for the photographers
I'm
that
seeing a
like
lot
to
more
do
people.
that thing.
Yeah, when I teach at our house, I'm seeing a lot more people out there with these $10,000+ camera rigs.
Yeah, really, with their
And,
big long lenses and things like that.
that's literally more than my car. Both of my car, my current car and my last car, people drop more on that in their cameras, and you see some amazing pictures. I can't remember his first name. Wolbarski.
Steven,
yeah. He cranks out some amazing stuff. Shane Sires, the snake guy.
Shane Sears, yeah.
Cyrus, yeah. There's absolutely a lot of some good macro stuff.
Yeah, he's got a website called Macronesia, and it's worth looking at because he's done.
Shane?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
done videos on that are really interesting.
Okay.
And it's all tiny stuff. It's not big at all, and it's all pretty much taken in this bay actually. So is well worth tuning in a couple YouTube looks to see what he's been doing. But but that's what happens is once you give Guam a chance, it can really surprise you. I never thought Guam had any stingrays, and then I found a couple sandy areas where I can see stingrays. So you just have to kind of look around and give the island a chance. And I think that happens. We started doing a thing in Yap a few years ago called Critter Hunt. And this was mostly for macro people to come down and be with a couple of the Indonesian more famous dive guides who would show the Yapese guys what to do. And then that actually carried on into the Yapese guys. Once they knew what to look for, we didn't need the Indonesian guys anymore. And they became the guides to show people the small stuff. And we found things in Yap that we never thought we'd see, like the Harlequin ghost pipefish and the ornate ghost pipefish. And I've actually seen those here at, what do we call it, Shark's Hole in Shark's
Outside
Pit?
Shark's Pit. yeah.
Outside Hilan?
Shark's Pit, yes, in Agate Bay, down.
Oh, okay.
Shark's Pit's by Arodi.
Yeah, down by Arodi Point. And, nobody ever thought that those things came here, but I think they're seasonal and they seem to come up from the depths a couple months a year, and you can look around some of the crinoids and some of the different kinds of corals that are down a little deeper around Shark Pit and actually see those, So once you Guam reminds me a lot of Okinawa. If you talk to somebody like a Japanese dive master and say, when should I come? And they say, what do you want to see? And they have like a turtle season and a little goby season, and they've got all these different seasons, even like a maguro season, for the dogtooth tuna and that kind of thing. They've got all these different seasons for different sites where you can be sure pretty much if you show up in Okinawa and go out to the Kurama Islands, it'll be there. And I think once people start understanding Guam a little more, which is really nice that the preserves got established, because that followed with a lot of study. And so I think people are actually finding out how important the preserves were. They were studied a lot before they were established, and now people are really seeing why those people suggested these things so many years ago.
Yeah, I'm a thrice over dive professional, and I don't know what you're talking about. So like I always understood there's some seasonality to things, but like man, like this is a lot of new stuff for me. Is this in your book? Like do you talk about like kind of are you able to
Some
get
of
into
it
that?
is, some of them I'm learning myself, you know,
Okay.
and I'm old. So.
Okay. So yeah,
But,
why don't you talk about your books a little bit?
Well, I did I did create these books, mostly just as a visual. So when people would say, well, what good are the preserves? You know, I'd say, well, there's, you know, really a lot of variety of fish in here. And you can actually kind of see poor old Guam's reefs have kind of taken a hit through really no fault of their own in the last 7 or 8 years. They've kind of become the poster child for global warming and climate change, actually. And we've had some problems with El Niños, La Niñas, kind of warming periods, I'd say. Crown of thorns infestations and all that. So about 2018, David Dubélé and his wife Jen from National Geographic called up and said, we've been trying to get down to the Great Barrier Reef, but we've been having trouble getting down there. We were assigned by National Geographic to cover all the coral reefs in the world and what they're doing right now. And their story came out about 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, you guys need to come here, you know. And they said, well, that'd be a lot easier because we're supposed to go to the Philippines anyway. We could just hop over from the Philippines. And I said, well, come out here, talk to, you know, Laurie Raimundo out at the Marine Lab who's doing some coral work. And we'll go around Tumon Bay. And David had been here in 2003.
David who?
Dubélé.
Okay, sorry.
From National Geographic. He's one of their top guys. And he had a photo that was a half photo taken in Tumon Bay, pretty much right in front of the lifeguard stand, where the coral, the staghorn coral was pretty much up at the surface, and then you could see the 3 towers of PIC in the background. And he wrote this nice flowery prose about, you know, you can hear the tinkling of the wine glasses as you're making a dive on the bay, you know, and you call it a really unique marine preserve that actually has all these nice hotels and restaurants around it, and there's still so much going on within the preserve. And he had done a story for a magazine and done some work for GVB back in 2003. So he shows up in 2018 and he says, I want to show this reef again and do a before and after, see what this reef looks like now. We went out there for 3 days. We could not find that reef. It had actually been affected by one of the El Niños in about 2013. Then some algae got on it and it finally weakened and collapsed, and it was just a pile of rubble. And we couldn't even take a half shot, you know, and that's how Guam's reefs have had to fight this stuff. So all this research that a lot of guys like you know, and guys like all of you are doing on all the protections, you know, are just so important. And so that's why I wanted to do the books, just to kind of show, you know, how nice the resources were that we have here, show the variety, and give people, you know, a visual. A lot of people will page through here and go, what the heck is that? I never knew that existed. You know, like a good example would be like this little leaf fish here. People look at this, and it's actually a juvenile batfish, I think.
Yeah, take your time while you're looking for that. You know, climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it. Believe it or not, you know, we've had many consecutive years, a handful of consecutive years, twice, because there was a 1-year break where we had like pretty severe bleaching on the island. We have exposed corals with low enough tides, you know, usually tied to El Nino or La Nina, whichever it is. And you know, we are losing coral. We have lost coral. It's not all doom and gloom, though. There is hope. We have a couple of nurseries on the island, coral nurseries. One of them is right here in this preserve. So people are doing things. People are taking action, and it's up to us to, you know, observe the rules, not step on the coral, and do whatever we can to not abuse our natural resources that, we love and depend on. People love fish. We love reef fish. And it's important we take care of their home so that they continue to populate, their home and keep feeding us and keep coming around. Did you find what you were looking for?
I did, and I was just saying, something like this little batfish here. It just looks like a leaf more than anything. Right?
I've seen those.
And people page through here and go, "What the heck is that? That's really a fish?" And I go, "Yeah, that's a baby fish, and they float around like that. They look like a real leaf, actually, and that's how they defend themselves when they're young." But that was really the emphasis behind getting these books going. And IP&E Shell was very good at getting it when we got it started. They actually gave me some sponsorship money. We did a Kickstarter campaign, and a lot of people were really enthusiastic about, oh, good, we're finally going to have a book about our marine preserves. GVB actually was really helpful. So, I found that the community really cares about the marine preserves, which was very nice to find out that I wasn't, on my own on this.
That's how I feel about everything all the time. Am I the only one that's doing this or cares about this, or does nobody notice this? And Cheyenne, I'd like to pivot back to you for a little bit. Tim, you mentioned you said you didn't think we had any rays here, and I instantly lit up inside because I remember when I was doing my advanced open water certification with a scuba mentor of mine, Luis Cabral. He used to teach at Sanchez High School, and we were doing open water certification. We went outside Asincut, which is not in the preserve, but that's okay. I still love that place too, of course. And we made it out. We navigated out through all the pillars and mounds of coral and just out into open water, and just right there to greet us was 5 stingrays just kind of laying around in the sand, just hanging out, and 6 black tips just kind of just chilling around in a circle. And it was just one of the most magical, times of not just my diving life, but my life period, just to see that something that awesome. And just right here at home, right under my nose, is a born and raised Chamorro local, here on Guam, and not know that we have that kind of stuff here. And that said, pivoting to the enforcement, I do seem to recall an article, and correct me if I'm wrong, where there was a grocery store or something here that were selling some kind of stingray or skate or something like that. I think there was I don't want to say there was an arrest, but they confiscated the rest of their stock.
I saw one time.
Does that sound familiar?
It was either that or at one of the flea markets where they were selling a baby eagle ray or something like that. Yeah.
I haven't heard about that.
You haven't heard that one? Okay.
Yeah, that did a store brought in ray part. It's against the law to sell anything made of stingray or stingrays on Guam.
Okay.
And a store brought in boxes of material that was skate tissue, but it was marked as ray parts. And so it was seized because that is against Guam law. And there were a couple 100 pounds of skate parts that came in, and they were confiscated. They went through the legal process, and eventually the skate tissue was disposed of. I think we gave it to the zoo to feed to the animals there or something like that. But yeah, it is illegal. People have been seen at the flea market selling small stingrays and small eagle rays as well. It is illegal to do, yeah. So it's not illegal to catch them and eat them. You can do that. You just can't sell them. You can't commercialize them.
Is that the same as octopus?
You can't sell invertebrates at all. You can catch them, but you can't sell invertebrates.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I guess Cheyenne, have you ever had to arrest anybody, or been part of an arrest or anything like that yet? Or
Yes, of
Yeah?
course.
Okay, I don't know.
Just like everywhere else, we have people that follow the law and people that break the laws. So for example, in Tumon, I've experienced there just coming up a person and just talking to them. And I also have a Dep Corps background, so
I'm sorry, what is that?
I was a corrections officer.
Okay.
So for 8 years I did that. And when you're talking to an individual, you can read them a little. So I just came up to a guy and said, "He looks suspicious," and he was. So, just straight out told him that, and he became nervous. So his friend or brother-in-law was in Gun Beach. He was spearfishing. So, yeah, they do it mostly at night. When that's when it happens. So that's my encounter with them. Or I come across in daytime. I just talk to people in the shoreline. people at Tulaza, people at Rod and Reel. You know, sometimes it's a good conversation, sometimes they're rude. So it depends. If they're really acting suspicious, then of course you're doing something wrong. If you're being rude, you know, understand, but at the same time, we're still doing our job. We have to check. But most of the time, we just, if it's either they have no catch, and we just do public outreach, and if they do have a catch and it's the wrong type of catch, then, you know, just to be fair, we have to do our job. And there's good and bad.
Yeah.
So yes, we encounter a lot.
I see it in the newspapers sometimes. There's a picture and like of
Their catch.
everybody, their entire catch, and it's like, I don't know, it's on the floor or something, and there's like a slate that you know, explains like details of the take and so on. And so how often does that happen? How often is somebody is anybody ever arrested? By the
Yes.
way,
Yes.
people are fully arrested? Do they
Yeah.
have jail time for?
It's a misdemeanor charge right now. So, and that's for fishing. But sometimes we, you know, occasionally we come across an individual when we're talking to them, or, you know, there's something else that pop up. So, like, obviously, like if you see on person something that's not supposed to be there, you know, plain view, then it escalates. We arrest them and they're confined depending on what we find. And it's not only fish, but like controlled substance. That's what I'm talking about. Most of the time it's book and release. Yep, that's
Is
fine.
that to do with the nature of the crime, or the prison being full, or?
When they're book and release, well, they go through the process first. We go to GPD. We process on our end. We go to GPD. GPD checks if they have any warrants, and if they do, they get confined. So, but if they're first time arrestee, no prior, or, you know, no warrants, they get released and they go to court at a later date. So.
Okay. I don't know if you're allowed, but is there a particularly like interesting like arrest story or situation you responded to that you like to share, that if you're allowed?
Actually, since since coming back, that was my favorite. It was coming up to a person and telling them, "Why you look so suspicious?" You know. And then after speaking to that guy, a male individual came up to me, and he was a prior, well, how do I say this? Someone that I met in jail. So.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. From your history as or your experience as
correction officer.
corrections
Yes.
officer. Okay.
But that was good because at the same time I met him. We're not there to stop you. We just want you to follow the rules. So I was asking him questions, and he came out with he answered everything right. So he's good to go.
Okay.
But the other guy, that was the most interesting thing, is just coming up to an individual and saying he looks so suspicious, and lo and behold, his brother-in-law had fish. So he was the lookout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so you
and-
went straight to the lookout.
Yeah, he was
In a very good lookout way.
yeah. No, he wasn't really. So, and he had the brother-in-law when finally when we met him, he had lots of fish. I mean, yeah. So they had tactaga, different types of fish. You know, so the marine preserve does work. You know, so I would tell them, you could have just gone to Tengisan. You know, Tengisan, just.
Yeah, I see people just fishing over in Assen, and it's just, you
right
just
there.
go right to the border and catch some good fish. So,
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say.
but I was going to ask you, that you can take their truck and everything, can't
Yes,
you?
yes,
I mean,
we
it's-
confiscate everything actually.
It's not just like taking their spear away or something.
Yeah, I
right?
tried to see if I could get kayaks from you guys, because you guys confiscated kayaks. I didn't get them.
Yeah, that's a process. So.
Yeah, on the note of, as a layperson, I guess I'm gonna speak on behalf of a lot of people here, because, as a layperson, and me being me in particular, I feel like I look suspicious just in general, just because I'm so loud and everything. And so, like, if I see law enforcement around, I just instantly assume I'm doing something wrong. So,
Well, we're not here for that. We're not here to intimidate you.
But I'm just, I don't know. It feels like, you know, like I feel like I'm 8 years old and my mom's around and I'm like, oh, like I'm usually doing something I'm not, or if I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do, I feel like, oh, like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm not actually doing anything wrong, but I still feel that way. So,
Well, I think we're friendly people, so.
you are. Yeah, I had a class at EPAL, also a Marine Preserve, and it was a shallow day. Free diving class, and there was a bunch of you guys, COs just on the beach, just kind of just chilling around and looking in my general direction, and they're like, oh man, like I have no idea if I'm doing anything wrong or what I'm doing. And then as soon as I kind of like stopped talking to my students or whatever, Nate Rios, I don't know his title, he's one of your fellows, a conservation officer. He's like, hey Farron, I'm like, oh hey, and I'm like, okay, we're cool.
See? But yeah, we get, you know, we're not there to harass anybody. We're just there you know, to observe and make sure people are safe too, and to educate. Because some people don't know, like the incident is, I don't see no signs here, you know, and I will ask, how long have you been living here? And they'll be like 20 something years, and there you go, you know. So people have to know, and we're always out there, so if you have any questions, you can just come up to us. Simple.
Cool. So you said something, and I guess from a law enforcement perspective, you said MPAs work, and you know, I agree. I don't know if I agree enough in that. Do you have enough people to do the job? I know we don't have enough regular police officers. Do we have enough regular conservation officers?
Actually, we are very short.
You're very
know.
short?
There's only full time. There's only like 6 of us.
6?
Yes.
For the entire island?
Yes.
What should it be?
I would
40?
say like 20,
106.
20 at least. You know, but it depends. I'm not the ones doing the budget, or you know, that's not my part.
Okay.
But we are short on manpower.
Like
it'll
6
be-
for 24-hour,
Yes.
7-day-a-week operations. Wow,
Yeah,
6
so-
people. Like I used to work in a front desk, which was a 24-hour operation, and we had more than 6 staff covering that desk. So like that's insanity. Wow, and for the whole island.
Yeah, so we're short. We have the CivCorps, the part-time conservation officers, so they help too. But most of the time, it's the full-time employees that's on shift. So, yeah, we need help. Help.
Okay. Well, yeah. If
Yeah,
anybody,
I think Palau does have 100
Palau?
conservation officers
100?
down there.
Wow.
Yeah, well, they're rangers and everything.
yeah.
I mean, it's a much bigger place. The archipelago is 100 miles long, you know, but
And they can't
know,
drive
you-
everywhere. Inter-island travel is by boat too. But yeah, still,
yeah.
we definitely need more for sure.
I mean, in comparison, yeah, you could use at least 30 or 40 more. Huh? So,
Of us, yes, that'll be nice.
Brent, from a biological, ecological perspective, do the MPAs work? Are they working?
This seems to be. I mean, the whole point of the MPAs being created was to improve fishing on Guam. You know, if you made the whole island an MPA, fish populations would
What?
be
It's
great.
to improve fishing?
But
it's not to like take our fishing rights away?
No, it's to improve fishing. If you made the whole island an MPA, fish stocks would go way up, but you'd lose the culture of fishing on Guam, which is extremely important. So part of the law that created the MPAs mandated that we monitor the MPAs and then report back to the legislature the results of our monitoring. And if they were shown to be doing what they were designed to improve fish stocks and fishing, they would be kept. If they could not be shown to be doing that, they would be gotten rid of. And 2 years after they were created, we went back to the legislature with the results of 2 years of monitoring. There was improvements in the number of fish, in the number of species of fish, and in the average size of fish across the board in all the MPAs compared to control sites. We monitor sites outside of the MPAs to see if what we're detecting is a result of an MPA or if it's just a result of an island-wide increase in fish or decrease in fish. And we do have results that show that things that are in the MPA are significantly different than things that are happening outside the MPA. So it's a strong indication that the MPAs are doing what they're designed. And monitoring goes on today. We go out We do dozens of surveys every year, still in the MPAs and the control sites, to make sure that they are still doing what they were designed to do.
Sorry, surveys, like, are you going around looking, or are you talking to fishermen or fishers? Or?
No, we get in the water, we do different types of transects to count fish. We count species, we look at sizes of fish, and we look at number of fish in general. And we primarily focus on fish that people eat and fish that are indicators of coral reef health, like butterfly fish and angelfish and things that require healthy coral to be there. And those are the fish that we document. And we've been doing that since 1998. We had a stretch in the 2000s where we stopped doing it, but we started up again in the 2010s, and it's going on currently now, and happens every year. We go out and monitor the MPAs and the control sites, and then at the end of the year we look at the data we've collected to see if there still are differences between, and if the differences are significant, and if there are changes in our results now from changes in the results we got 20 years ago, something like that. The last couple of years have been a little bit of an interesting situation because of COVID and the number of people way down in the water. It looks like fish numbers have come up everywhere. It's too soon to say if that's a benefit of the MPAs or if it's just an effect of COVID. Maybe another 5 years of monitoring when tourism gets back to normal and use in the water gets back to normal. We'll see if that was just a temporary bump that could be associated with COVID, or if it's a long-term effect from the marine preserves.
So like the person and the normal person in me is like, that feels like common sense. There's nobody there. People, the fish come out. So
Right.
I don't know.
Right. But it's too soon to say if that's an effect of the preserves, because it's just we're still feeling the effects of COVID on tourism and use in the water. We have to have several years to look back on that and say, oh yeah, that bump was because of COVID and nobody in the water, or we can say it rose and is maintained for the next 5 years. That's probably a result of the marine preserves. It's too soon to say yet, but we'll keep monitoring and see what we can detect.
So I have simultaneous reactions to that, like two totally different reactions. One is like, I appreciate that kind of scientific rigor and approach to just not assume you know what's going on, wait, get data, and just double check as much as you can. And the other side of me is like, come on, like, it's got to be true. We know it's just true. Can't we just say it's just true? Can we just say it's true, like the evidence of our eyes? But I guess that's what science is for, yes?
Exactly. You get too eager and you get yourself into trouble when something comes up to show you're wrong in that assumption. So it's best to be conservative and cautious and look when you're much more confident and you have several years worth of data to back up your opinion, your statement on it. And that's what we're in the process of collecting now.
Cool. Yeah. We guys, we have another 5 or so minutes of recording. So if there's anything you've been wanted to get out and we didn't get to talk about it yet, please speak up.
One thing I wanted to comment on, you brought it up earlier about how the MPAs now are kind of more of a Western thing and there's not a lot of indigenous input in them. The permits that Cheyenne was talking about, we issue a permit to the Piti MPA or issue a permit to the Acheng MPA. That permit is only issued by request of the mayor. So the highest ranking civic person in those villages decides if we're going to open them up for those fish or not. That's not our decision. It's the mayor of those villages' decision. So if those fish aren't running or the mayor doesn't want people fishing for them, we don't issue a permit because the mayor doesn't request it. But if they are running and the mayor wants people to be able to fish for them, they put in a request and we issue a permit at that time. So the power for that aspect of fishing in the preserves is completely up to the local elected official.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
It's not our decision at all.
That's something approximating like a chief of a village.
Exactly,
yeah,
right.
That's really cool.
Exactly. That's the Western version of allowing a chief to make the decision. Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, anything else we didn't get to talk about that you wanted to?
One thing that kind of Tim had mentioned earlier also about Guam being a dive destination is we have several animals in here that are not found anywhere else in the world but on Guam. And so
like what? Really?
We have a shepherd's angelfish. It's pretty much only found here up to the Ryukyu Islands, but this is the only place it's really found commonly at diving depths. And so if people want to see that, they come here. There's a damselfish here, the Guam damselfish. It's only found here to Saipan and nowhere else. If you want to see it, you have to come to Guam pretty much to see that. There are several nudibranchs that have only been found on Guam and nowhere else, and some crabs as well that are only found from Guam and nowhere else. So if you want to work on a life list of something that's kind of exclusive, Guam's a good place to go because we have a lot of endemic things that are not found anywhere except in Guam, or at least not found at easily accessible depths except on Guam.
Cool. Yeah, maybe I can work with you guys to get some pictures or videos just to layer it on top of this for people watching so they can see
sure, yeah.
stuff we
Yeah.
only have here on Guam or here in the Marianas. Like,
Yeah.
that is so awesome. I did not know we had any of those that's endemic marine species. Cool.
Yes.
Cheyenne, anything else that you wanted to you wanted to talk about we didn't get to talk about yet, or you feel pretty good, or?
Yeah, I feel good.
Feel
Like I
good?
said, if they have any questions, they can always call us.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt.
Do you have a particular number, or we can shout out the Toka hotline too?
Yeah,
and-
you can call the Toka hotline or call our office. It's 300-0760.
300-07, sorry, say again?
300-0760.
Okay.
That's the conservation office if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, and also you can report violations to 864-TOKA, TOKA. I don't know what the numbers are, 864-TOKA.
Yeah.
Use your phone. All right, cool. Tim, anything else you wanted to talk about, or maybe want to just do a shout out for Fisheye and your store upstairs?
Well, what I wanted to say is the reason, just to wrap up, the reason I did these books is if you're standing on the shore and you look out at the ocean, it looks pretty much like it did. I got here in '81. It hadn't changed that much. It looks beautiful, it's wonderful, but there's just a lot going on under the ocean. And some of it's good, some of it's not so good for the reef and the fish life. So it's really wonderful, I think, that we have the preserves and that people are taking care of them and, doing different kinds of work in them, from the coral work. I think you're involved in actually, and the monitoring and also the conservation officer approach, to make sure that people don't take the people's resources away from them, which I think is a wonderful way to watch over things. And that kind of is the reason I did the books. And if you would like to have a look through one, it's on Amazon.com under Hidden Treasures, Guam's Marine Preserves. You can get them as a Kindle book, or it's also on Apple as an EPUB, and then you can get a print book on Amazon as well. So that's my little plug there. But I've been involved with Fisheye for a number of years, and
Yeah, you had your store in the visitor center across the street.
Even before that, doing books for them. They did a lot of educational books when they first opened up. They spent about $1 million to move coral heads out of the way to put this observatory in its place, and then actually move the coral heads back to where they came from, just so it wouldn't disrupt the natural layout of the place. They've kind of since day one been very, having a healthy environment here is extremely important to them, both from a conservation point of view, which they have always shepherded conservation point of view. And also it just makes good business sense. If everything's dead here, nobody's going to come to the
It seems like
observatory.
a fairly neutral operation. Like, you're literally like, there's no opportunity for you to step on the coral in here.
Right.
And you can bring kids, you can bring babies in here, and and they can still appreciate it without anything else.
See a
Families.
wild shark.
There's just sharks circling. I hope people can see that on the camera. We're just literally being circled by sharks this whole episode.
But yeah, I've just always appreciated their attitude, and the general manager here, as
Tani-san.
you know, is a free diver and gets in the water a lot. And
4-minute breath hold. He's one of my students.
And so he's not just here to do business. He actually has made Guam his home, and he really loves this area. And so I've always appreciated Fisheye for that. So I am happy to see that they've kept that attitude over the years. And it'd be nice if a lot of businesses would adopt a reef or something like that. It'd be kind of nice to see businesses get involved. And I don't know how you go about doing that. That's probably a whole nother show. But
Yeah, I mean, I'll take 30 seconds to say this. So, I'm a PADI dive instructor, and there's a really cool thing in the PADI system where, PADI instructors can basically make up their own classes. Sometimes they're kind of silly, sometimes they're really serious. I made up one that's pretty serious. So we were talking about crown of thorns earlier being a major issue because they eat coral. So I've created a course to teach volunteer scuba divers how to go out and hunt crown of thorns. We give them a lethal injection just to protect the coral. And I've been working with Department of Agriculture, and I actually have permits for that, so I can do that here in marine preserves as well, with my students and the volunteer divers that I'll be training. And so I'm not trying to make bank on it or anything. It's just something just to help the reefs that people can do, and volunteer divers will be able to do. It's very hard to become let's say a scientific diver, but anybody can get their advanced open water and so on. So I was tapping into the dive community here to do some helping out. It's not exactly adopting a reef, but it's some way that I can use one of my credentials to give back and to help.
Yeah, that's great. It's really good to get the public involved, then it becomes their reef. And so, yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, I'd like to thank my guests for joining me, Tim Rock, Cheyenne. I'm sorry, I don't got your last name. The Conservation Officer, Officer Cheyenne. And
Irene Chetta.
Irene Chetta, thank you. And Brent, biologist Brent Tibbetts. Thank you guys for joining me. And also especially like to thank Fisheye for hosting us and allowing us to do this incredibly awesome, really cool shoot in an underwater observatory. It's just so cool to say that out loud. We shot a podcast underwater in the Fisheye Observatory. So thank you, Fisheye. Thank you to my guests. And thank you, listeners and watchers, for tuning in. Yes, that made sense. Goodbye.